Ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country and around the world. These are dark times, but right before I hit record, the sun came out over here. And I think that is a reflection of what I hope we can get some of from this conversation. A returning champion, a man who's been with us 3 times and is representing legitimately, for some people, the only sunlight in America right now. Captain Positivity himself, the great and powerful Governor Wes Moore, is back on Independent Americans. Welcome back, buddy.
Rykoff, good to see you, man.
I miss you.
I miss you too, brother. I really do. I really do.
I'm
proud of you. But I'm proud of you.
Proud of you. I mean, man, I am inspired every day. And it's wild. You first came on the show in 2019.
Yeah.
And a lot has changed since then.
That feels like eons ago, man. Damn. Yeah, that's right.
Last week feels like eons ago, right?
It sure does, man. It sure
does.
So
let me start with the question I always ask. Where are you and how are you, my friend?
I'm here in Annapolis, here at the State House. And and honestly, I'm feeling resilient. And here's the thing. It's and we tell our people where this is a very complex time. I start my day every single day with essentially briefings about what happened over the past 24 hours that we need to, what new executive order, or what this, what that. But the thing I know is like we're built for this, man. You know what I mean? Like we have been carved and forged in a way that we don't flinch. Like that's been eked out of us. We don't do that anymore.
Who is the we? Who is the we, Wes?
Well, part of it is, I tell you, one of the reasons I love our veterans community is because I actually think that there is no greater training for moments of uncertainty like what we were forced to go through, right? It's this idea that the only certainty is uncertainty. And so figure it out. Figure it out. And that's the only option you got. Figure it out, right? But I also think that, even if you think about our administration in the first 2 years, where we've had crisis after crisis after crisis happen within our state. When we came on board, there was a crisis of violence. We had gone 8 straight years of 300 plus homicides in Baltimore City. Over an 8-year period, we saw how the homicide rate in the state of Maryland nearly doubled. The non-fatal shooting rate did double. I mean, there was just this epidemic of violence that we walked into. And you know what? We come in there and we say, figure it out. And so we make record investment in local law enforcement, record investment in getting cops on the street, using predictive analytics, working with our state's attorneys and our U.S. attorney and our mayors and county executives and local law enforcement. And in the first 2 years, we now have seen Maryland has had amongst the most precipitous drop of violent crime of anywhere in the entire country. Now you came in and said, okay, we got a crisis of getting people employed. We were 43rd in the country in unemployment when we first came on board. Now we made historic investments in childcare, historic investments in trade and apprenticeship programs, and getting people without college degrees into the workforce because it's ridiculous that we weren't getting into the workforce beforehand. And now Maryland has amongst the lowest unemployment rates in the entire country. And when the Key Bridge collapsed, we saw how 13% of our economy was shut down instantaneously, where we had thousands of people who lost their jobs overnight, where we had small businesses that were shuttered, where we had 6 lives of individuals who were lost that night on that track and when the Key Bridge collapsed. And what did we have to do? You figure it out. Because you have to lead in crisis. And I think that the thing we continue to show, and why I feel a real sense of confidence, is we've shown in Maryland, you confront crisis with courage. That's how you win. And you stay steady, you stay focused, you don't get distracted. And so this is a wild time, man. But we're ready.
So when the ship crashed into the bridge, I turned to some friends and said, he's built for this. You are built for moments like that. And I think those of us who've been rooting for you and loving you and supporting you and working with you know that you were ready for moments like that. And I think I thought the world would kind of see you at the convention, but that happened before the convention. That became a moment, really, I think, when you emerged on the global stage where the whole world can see how you're built for this. But this is different, man. I mean, every morning I'm waking up to texts from people who I know and love who are saying, I'm scared. Yeah. Tell me what to do. where is the strategy? Where are the leaders? And it's like a ship is hitting our democracy every single morning.
Yeah.
And we're going through what I've called a great cultural, political, artistic, moral Great Depression.
Yeah.
And people are feeling it and they're looking for hope. And I've told a lot of people, I'm not a Democrat, but Wes Moore is one of the single sources of hope and leadership that I see. So I'm just going to ask you straight up, man, like, can you save the Democratic Party? Can you save America? No pressure, man. But I think we're looking across the spectrum and I don't see anybody cracking through.
Yeah.
AOC sometimes, other people sometimes, but I see you as someone who's built for this moment because you transcend party. So I got a two-part question. Number one, people are really starved for leadership. And you represent it. So can you be a leader to meet this moment? And frankly, what's the plan beyond Maryland? Because this is so much bigger than Maryland now. The moment's calling you and anyone who can help.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think that people should not be saying, well, can the Democratic Party save me? Parties are not going to save anybody. I mean, that's not what they're structured. That's not how they're built. And I think about it honestly, in my case, man, where it's like, the Democratic Party did not make me the governor. In fact, the Democratic Party had many other options that they were trying to make the governor other than me, right? I mean, like we ran against the former head of the DNC. We ran against cabinet secretaries, ran against statewide elected officials. And then there's me, this guy who had no political background, the guy who was raised by an immigrant single mom, the guy who is an Army veteran and does not come from a political family. But I was like, you know what? Shit, I want to run for governor, because I feel like our ideas can be better. And we ended up getting more individual votes than anyone who'd ever run for governor in the history of the state of Maryland. But that was because we didn't just have Democrats. We had Democrats, we won independents, we won a good chunk of Republicans, because I never have, and I never will somehow just be a talking point for a party. You know what I mean? So if people are looking for the Democratic Party to save them, I wish you the best of luck, because that's not what is going to navigate.
I literally have a segment in every show that says the Democrats will not save you. So it's helpful and refreshing to hear that from someone who's a Democrat, Wes.
Yeah. A party is not going to leadership will. Leadership, not a party, not this amorphous thing. It's leadership, the steady leadership. That's what's going to actually save us, right? And that's the thing that we're trying to show the people of our state. One thing I love is, I actually think if you want to look to the answers, if you want to see what's happening, look at what some of the states are doing. Because I think, listen, people talk about, we're seeing how powerful Washington is. And I'm like, I hear that. But you know what, though? We're about to show you how powerful governors are. We're about to show you how powerful states are. We're about to show you how powerful that this federalist idea that this country was built on, right? About the strength of the individual state, that we're now going to see just how powerful that machine can actually be. And so while we're doing things like making sure that we're driving down the cost of prescription drugs, when people are telling us that everything is too expensive, when we're doing things like saying we have to increase housing options and get more people in terms of being homeowners, turning more renters into homeowners, increasing inventory, which is going to drive prices down. When people are telling us these are the things that we care about, making sure our streets are safe, making sure our schools are good. If you're telling me that those are things are important, then I'm telling you, then that's what I'm focused on. And that's how we're going to make sure that our folks are protected. And so I just believe that this becomes a moment when this is about results. Are you actually getting things done or not? Are you actually making things easier for your people or not? And the people that are actually delivering results are the ones who I think in this moment are not just going to reward us, but it's those public servants. I believe that service will save us in this moment. And those public servants are the ones going to deliver us.
So you're putting big points on the board, right? You've been there 3 years now, right? And week after week, you're putting points on the board. You're hitting for high average. You're showing results in Maryland that I think are indisputable on everything from, crime to the economy, to the budget. You're hitting all the points here. But does the future in the next, we can't think about a year from now, right? Because the damage that's happening every 24 hours is so severe and so intense. And the national example that's being set. where yesterday the vice president's calling a journalist a dummy on social media. The language, the tone is shameful to so many of us, and is so disrespectful to the flag that's standing behind you. So when people say to me, where is the vision? Where is the strategy? Do I tell them, look at Maryland and look at West, because that is a beachhead or a safe space? It's almost like the Balkanization of America, where Alabama is going to look like hell. You know, New York is being poorly led, in my view, so it seems like it's getting shredded apart. Are you going to be like a rampart for the next year while Trump continues to rampage on our democracy? And is that what people should do, is invest in saving what we can over the next couple of years?
Well, I think there's a few things. And one is, yes, I'm going to make sure that I want Maryland to be this safe haven for progress, right? I want Maryland to be the best place in the world to change the world. And so for all of our change agents, all of our entrepreneurs, all of our business leaders, all of our social entrepreneurs, like I want all of our educators and our doctors, like I want them to choose Maryland, because this is a place that you are going to be safe. This is a place where you are going to be celebrated. This is a place where we are going to focus on innovation and making things not just more affordable, but more competitive. So yes, I want Maryland to be the place that becomes the shining example. And I think that it's a certain power that the states do have in that. However, we cannot underscore the damage that is happening. And also, frankly, to your point, it's the cruelty. It's the fact that when we're talking about things like knocking children off Medicaid, when we're talking about things like taking federal, and listen, and anyone who wants to have a conversation with me about efficiency, like, look at what we're doing here in Maryland. I literally had an executive order months ago talking about the government modernization initiative that's focusing on things like fleet consolidation and IT consolidation, fleet management, procurement reform, real estate reform, and literally cutting tens of millions of dollars of government waste out of our budget. We've gone 3 straight years now, Paul, with where you watch the state budget, the general fund actually decrease. I'm decreasing the size of state government, and I've done it 3 years in a row. And we've not only decreased the size of state government, we've increased efficiency. So I don't need a lecture from an unelected billionaire about how to make things more efficient in my state, because actually I would love for him to come spend time in Maryland and see how we're doing it, and showing how we're doing it in a way that is compassionate, in a way that actually makes sense, in a way that is transparent. But you cannot tell me that laying off people who are supporting our veterans, you cannot tell me that laying off people who are creating cures for cancer that's impacting children. You cannot tell me that someone who is a caretaker or someone who is keeping our streets safe, that somehow eliminating them is making us more efficient as a country. You cannot make that argument with a straight face to me. And so the way to do this,
you're punching back. But let me ask you this, because the punches are going to intensify, right? Yeah. And you're calling out Musk. You're nuanced in the way you call out Trump. Yeah. But let me ask you, if you are, the governor of Maryland, and Maryland is this safe space, a place where democracy can fight back, what is your strategy for fighting Musk and Trump specifically? Because the wolves are not only at the door, they're inside, right? Yeah. Yesterday, they're laying off 20% of 9/11 World Trade Center registry health workers, USAID is being annihilated. Ukraine is being betrayed. When people say, how do we fight back? I don't know what to do. I feel overwhelmed. I feel demoralized. I'm looking for leadership. And we say, okay, look at Wes. What's the plan specifically to fight back against Trump and Musk?
You know what? I think part of it is we have to take a look at the military. And I say that for this reason. You're a 11 Alpha guy, right? We have people there are folks who are the door kickers. We kick in the doors, right? That's what we do. We are the kinetic operators. We fight and win our nation's wars. And we're the ones, you're the 11 bang bang, right? Now, we also understand you can't accomplish your mission without the JAG folks. And you also can't accomplish your mission without the cooks. And you're not going to be able to accomplish your mission without our combat engineers. You can't accomplish your mission without MI, right? Everybody has their lane. And this is actually, I think, part of the reason why people say, like, I don't know what to do and I feel overwhelmed, is because everyone's thinking that they have to do everything. No, I'm like, do your job. Do your part. Because if you do your part, and then the guy next to me is doing his part, and the woman next to him is doing her part, that's how we actually have success. And so are we going to need to rely on our attorneys general to go sue when just dumb and unconstitutional things come along the board? 100%. Are we going to have to rely on our social service sector to say, you know what, when we are dealing with the collateral, when we're dealing with the debris of these broken systems, are we going to have to step up and do our work in a unique way and making sure we're serving additional communities? 100%. Are we going to need the people in Washington to make sure that part of their job is not just to push back, but part of their job is to come up with additional ideas and alternatives and actually being able to work with the moderate Republicans, because you're not going to get all of them. And that's not how this democracy is going to work.
Can I ask you on that one? Can I ask you to focus in on that one? Because, you know, the Democrats are not going to save us. And what the Democrats have so far failed to do is to get any Republicans outside of Mitch McConnell in votes against Hegseth and Tulsi and RFK Jr. It seems like the Democrats don't have a strategy to move any Republicans. Yeah. And that's where they really feel fragmented to me. Are you, talk about you specifically, are you in a unique position because of your successes, because of your background, because of your kind of your beyond partisan approach? Can you move any Republicans? Because we need some Republicans here, hopefully, to have some common sense, to be patriotic, to push back alongside the Democrats who vote no every time. But is there any way you can be a part of a strategy to actually move these Republicans that are one vote away from stopping Hegseth, from stopping other people?
Yes, and if you look at what we've done, we've introduced 26 pieces of legislation since I've been the governor of Maryland. Not only have we gone 26 for 26, we've gone 26 for 26 bipartisan. We've gotten Democrat and Republican support on every single bill that we have introduced thus far with our administration. I think about the Key Bridge, where I personally met with over 160 members of Congress, personally, walking them through the numbers, walking them through the financials, explaining why 100% cost share is actually going to be cheaper than 90% cost share because of the time value of money and how quickly we can get this thing done, and literally walk them through line by line about what we need to do and how I'm going to personally project manage this thing if I need to, right? On time and on budget. That we were able to get 100% cost share, not just because the Democrats voted for it, but we had Democrats, we had Republicans. Some of the greatest champions for the 100% cost share in the Key Bridge were folks like Steve Womack and Tom Cole, right? Republicans who said, we have personally met with the governor and we understand why this is important. Personally met with members of our congressional delegation. So I just think that anyone who thinks that and this goes back to the point that the Democratic Party will save us, I don't even know what that means. Because there is an important role that each of us are going to have to play. And frankly, that role, it needs to be post-partisan. We have to understand not just the danger that is now at the door and has already entered into the home, but also it's the opportunities that we actually have if we can get our shit together and we actually be patriots in this moment.
I want to build on. So if you run for president, maybe you can run as an independent. Can I finally convince you to be an independent? Because that party is full of so much baggage in so many parts of this country, man. You know, there's so many things I love about you. That's the one thing I say is, even though he's a Democrat, I love him. And I wish you would declare your independence and break the seal, because so many would follow you if you did. But I think there's going to be an environment where more people become politically independent, are leaving the Democratic Party, and whether or not, you know, luminaries like you do it or not. But let me ask you specifically, if I can, Wes, two messages. One, I want to ask you to talk to our kids to end this. But before we do, can you talk to the world? Because the world is looking at our corrupt, mean, ignorant, extreme leadership in this moment, where they're making Russia sound like a reasonable ally and victim shaming Ukraine. I know you're focused on Maryland, but you have been, you know, entering select conversations internationally. Things impact Maryland. It's a very global state where you're touched by the intelligence community and defense. Right now, the whole world thinks we're fucking crazy and thinks that we're all like Trump, or we're okay with what Trump is doing. Can you talk to the world and represent a sane voice for America? When I say yesterday, you know, yes, Trump is saying these things, but he doesn't represent all of us. just in your own words, can you represent to the world what you think America still stands for in this moment?
Yeah, I think America represents still this beautiful grand experiment. And I think people have to remember that just like any experiment, we have ups and downs and we have ebbs and flows. But if you look at America in its totality, that this country has been and will continue to be a true beacon of what hope and opportunity and change can actually look like. And anyone who thinks that that is not true, I just simply ask, look at our history. I am literally sitting in an office that is about a 5-minute walk away from the Annapolis docks, which was one of the first and largest slave ports in this country's history. And I'm standing 5 minutes away from that spot where so many of our ancestors first entered into this country. And I'm now sitting in the second floor of the State House as the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland. This country has a deeply uneven history. This country's history is complex. It's also long. And so for anyone who feels like America has now conceded, I just simply ask them this, hold on, guys. Because if there's one thing I think this country has continued to show, is that patriotism is not a momentary thing. Patriotism means understanding that we have a joint and collective responsibility to be able to push things and make things a little bit better for our next generation. And we are not conceding that. That just hold on, because while our country's history is uneven, we eventually bend it towards progress, not because it just bends automatically, but because there are patriots who make sure that it actually bends that way. Don't give up on us.
You are leaning hard into that bending motion your entire life, and especially now. I wish we had more time for me to talk to you about whether you really think Lamar Jackson should be the MVP.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, huh?
I mean, it's not close. I mean, like, listen, and I say this with all love to Bills Mafia. Like, Josh Allen is he's a dog. Like, I get it. He had a very good year. Josh Allen is a very good quarterback. Lamar Jackson is a transformational quarterback. Lamar Jackson, he had better.
And neither one of them is a Super Bowl quarterback yet.
I know, and that's a whole nother issue. But honestly, even if you ask folks in Bills Mafia, if you said if you could have Lamar Jackson or if you could have Josh Allen right now, who would you take for the next 5 years? I'm telling you, the majority of this country would say I would take Lamar Jackson. He's just saying, how do you prepare for a Lamar Jackson? And even statistically, he had more passing yards, more passing touchdowns, more rushing yards. I mean, like, this guy, he is so difficult to match up against. Josh Allen is a very good quarterback, and I'm not taking anything away from that, but he is not transformational in the way that Lamar Jackson is.
There is so much baked into this discussion about America and Lamar Jackson.
There is. Josh Allen, right? For real.
But I will tell you, when I play Madden's 25 with River, we're taking Lamar Jackson, right? I mean,
of course.
But neither one of them have won yet. But this is part of why I think you are mastering the culture in a way that you understand the culture. And I mean American culture in a way that Democrats have not been able to do. You're at the Ravens games and you're at the Commanders games, which is kind of amazing how you're doing that. But you're hitting batting practice with the Baltimore Orioles. You're out in the community, but you understand the culture. And I joked with you in this. I said, you're in the best shape, also, I think, of any Democrat out there. So I would love to see RFK Jr. in a UFC cage with you, because
I'd love that. I'd love that, bro.
Yeah.
oh yes.
Dana White. You want to bring people together? Let's get Wes in a cage with steroid pumping RFK Jr. and let's see.
Let's do it.
Take that
one. Let's do it.
All right, last question, and I gotta let you go because you got a million really important things to do. A lot of young people are scared, they're fed up, they're checked out. Maybe they don't know about you yet, or maybe they've heard about you, or they're gonna hear about you. But the people who are like, fuck it, it was a good 250 something years in America. It's all coming down and I'm going to be hiding out in the mountains, or whatever they're saying. Young people especially, I think, are scared because they've never seen, nobody's ever seen this before. But young people often feel abandoned by their institutions, by their leaders. What's your message to young people?
I'd say your feeling abandoned is justified, man, because we have been. I mean, I'm, you know, I always say I don't. When I say I don't come from a political family, like I don't come from a background who's used to making policies. I come from a background of a family that's used to suffering the consequences of them. So like when people say we've been abandoned and this has not been fair, like that's real. Like I watched my dad die in front of me when I was 3 because he didn't get the health care he needed. My mother didn't get her first job that gave her benefits until I was 14 years old. And this is a woman who went on to earn a master's degree. So like when we're having conversations about inequitable pay and the wealth gap, I'm like, yo, I don't need a white paper to explain that. You know, like I grew up in it. And so the thing that I would say to a lot of people who might feel frustrated about the system is you have a right to, because the system has not been fair. And what we're watching right now in many ways is a compounding of this lack of fairness. This is not tearing the system up to make it better. This is lighting things on fire because I like the feeling of flames on my face. This is like anarchy. The thing I would just tell people is this, though. The only people who have ever made any real change in people's lives are not ones who have lied about our history, but are ones who've actually acknowledged it and tried to make it better. Are the ones who woke up every morning knowing, yes, this system needs fixing, but if I'm not the one fixing it, then I'm just making it worse for everybody in my life. The ones who have made an impact are, as you always say, Paul, and I love you for it, it's the helpers, right? Look for the helpers. Look for the ones who are willing to raise their hand. Look for the ones who are willing to put on the uniform. Look for the ones who are waking up before the sun comes up. Look for the ones who are willing to sacrifice and come home long after the sun has gone down, but who are going home knowing I did a good day's work. Look for the ones who take showers after work and not before work. Look for them, because they're the ones who understand what it means to be a patriot, that I'm willing to sacrifice for something better if it means that something better is actually promised. And so for all the people who feel frustrated about where we are, I say, I hear you, I feel you, but now I'm looking at you and say, but what are you going to do about it? Are you going to curl up into a fetal position? Or are you going to stand up and fight? Because I'm fighting. You're fighting. We got a whole legion of folks who are saying, we're here to fight. And those are the ones and that's what makes you immortal. That's what makes you eternal.
When there's a fight, I want you with me, man. In the mortal combat that is our political system right now, you are my first choice to go in. And that's why I tell people, if you want hope and you want strength and you're looking for it, Wes Moore has got it. And maybe most importantly, it's contagious. And that's why I know every time I'm around you, I feel elevated, to use your word. I feel inspired. I know other people do too. And the sacrifices that you and Dawn and the kids are making are tremendous. So I just want to thank you for that out in the open. Lauren sends her love. The boys send their love. And
give them all my love.
Bro's
amazing, bro. You're a lucky dude.
We are amazing. We are both very lucky dudes, but this is a lucky country because we're still producing and supporting leaders like you, man. And I love you and I'm grateful for you. Everybody's praying for you and rooting for you. Just keep doing your thing, man. Because we are all rooting for you. And there are a lot of days when people are getting out of bed and they need to flip over to your Instagram page and away from the other stuff, which I've told you is like what I call Wes porn. It's like, if you guys want some hope, is Wes with like his sleeves rolled up, swimming with firefighters. He's got puppies. He's hitting batting practice. He's catching dimes from Lamar.
Yes.
But it's contagious, man. And we need it now more than ever. You're a great patriot and a great leader. And we're thankful for you, man. I love you very much. And thank you for all you're doing.
Love you, brother. God bless you, man.
Go get him. Go get him.
Sure.